Luca Nation. This is a special guest. This is someone that I've wanted to have on the show for some time, and you young entrepreneurs, you're gonna want to listen here. There's gonna be some great stuff, some nuggets of gold here. Sam Shuford, did I pronounce that right?
Shuford, but yeah, more like the shoe emphasis. So
Shuford,
yeah.
founder of Women of the Hobby, youth, bringing just good vibes to the space, and I wanted to have Sam on for a long time. So, welcome to the Lucas Tigers and Bronze show.
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited to be on. I get to listen to you guys pretty often here, so I'm excited to be a guest.
Have you been on? You've been on podcasts before, so this is easy for you.
Yeah, I've been on podcasts, but you always get a little bit like right before I feel like, oh, what are we gonna talk about? Like, what are we gonna get into? So we'll see what we get into today.
I've been told I don't make it a safe space, which is not good. But I promise, we're not going to come out of left field too much. I don't think. I mean, we still have to be us.
Right? No, yeah, I don't think so either. So
let me ask you, like, you left National. We're recording this kind of mid to end of August. Is there anything that you want to discuss? Is there anything that since you did the events at National, that might be kind of top of mind that you'd want to share?
Maybe two things. So the one thing that I thought was really cool at the National was there's a Women in the Hobby. So that's more so like the Facebook kind of community group that Ty from Bullpen LA and Sarah Layton, Layton Sports Card, they were the big kind of proponents and sponsors of the Women in the Hobby booth. And it really it had the tagline of "This is what a collector looks like." And I really liked that because I felt like they had some shirts and different things available, but anyone in the the conference center could have been wearing that shirt, which I think was just a really nice touch of not just isolating it to just visibility of women, but visibility of everyone who collects. So I thought that was really cool.
Ty,
well, it's a good question to start off with. What is the difference between women in the hobby and women of the hobby?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good difference. And Ty and I, we've kind of maybe gone back, like we've discussed a little bit here. And I think Women in the Hobby, they kind of just rebranded, to my knowledge, this is what I know, is like there's a Facebook group of women in sports cards. And so that's a pretty big Facebook group. And they've changed it now to Women in the Hobby. And so I think Women in the Hobby is maybe more so like just a general community page. And then Women of the Hobby, if I can get out content, is more centered around like being a podcast and sharing the stories of women. So I think that's kind of how to differentiate the two moving forward.
Easy. All right.
Cage, Sarah just had a boy. So if Sarah Layton's listening, congratulations from all of Luca Nation. She couldn't make it to National. So congratulations. And Ty.
And congratulations to baby Cage Layton. I'm sure they named it after the most influential person in the hobby.
At least the middle name for sure. Cage is a good middle name.
It's a good name. I mean, with the last time my family picked a middle name, we came up with Xavier.
Okay.
That's Ian's middle name.
Ian's middle name is Xavier?
Mm-hmm.
Ian Xavier, you're Cage?
Cage. And I'm Cage. Wow. That's it. So, a lot more letters than his.
That's actually kind of funny though. My boyfriend's name is Xavier, but it's technically his middle name, so he's James Xavier. So it's a popular middle name. It sounds like it.
But he goes with the X. He's the X-Man. We're gonna call him Sam and the X-Man. Power couple. Oh, so I mean, was this your first time going to the National?
No, so yeah, I was there last year in Chicago, but last year was my first year. So yeah, definitely some differences I could tell.
Yeah, that's the best way to start, right? I mean, what were the biggest differences you saw from last year to this year?
Yeah, so I think this year, well, personally, I thought the lighting in Chicago was really poor. Like, I felt like I was in the dark a good bit in Chicago. Like, that's just, like, a personal thing. So I thought that Atlantic City seemed a lot brighter. But really, in terms of the show floor, I think it was a lot bigger. There was a lot more space in Chicago. It definitely got a little cramped in terms of the aisle space. And then, yeah, I would say, like, I've heard people touch on this, but I will say the corporate presence did seem a lot bigger. I mean, it took up a large, like, better half of the middle of the room. And I felt like, you kind of had to drudge through the corporate stuff to get to the other side, really. That's kind of how I saw it. Yeah, those were kind of the bigger differences that I saw overall.
Did you get a Stranger Things pack?
No, I didn't because the line was so long. Every time I went there, it was like wrapped around, and then I'd heard like, oh, they've been there for 2 or 3 hours. I'm like, I'm not waiting for 2 or 3 hours. Um, but it looked really cool. I took a picture and I like went over into that like lounge area, which was nice. But when I was over there, it was just like people waiting in line, so it didn't look too entertaining at the moment.
The machine was cool. I also did not wait in line, and if I could have brought one thing home that I didn't bring, it would have been a Stranger Things pack. I probably should just buy one. I'm sure people are reselling them on eBay or secondary. I should just buy one.
Dinged corners though, right? Because I had to like if it fell, there's no way you're getting a 10 out of that.
Well, it's not. It's for Leah. She's not going to grade them. She's just to give her some cards. My daughter likes Stranger Things.
Until you sell them, and then you tell her it's at PSA, and then she gets it back 5 years later.
You know, a lot of people don't realize this, but, you know, what was cool about, you know, what Josh was doing there is in the late 80s, I mean, Stranger Things, I think was supposed to be in the 80s, early 90s, something like that. In the late 80s, cards got so big, they actually had card vending machines. So it's funny. It's a nice little twist. People don't even make that connection. I remember going to like the supermarket with my family, and my father would say, "Okay, if you're good while we're here, on the way out, we'll let you pick a pack of cards. There's upper deck and like all that." And it was the same. I mean, and it's funny because grading wasn't a thing, so we didn't even think about that. It's like, all right, we'll get the pack, and it drops down, and it's boom. It's like, of course, automatic 7. But as a kid, you didn't think about that. So it's funny. Before you said, "Oh, you're not going to get it," I didn't even, recall card vending machines were a thing, man. I'm telling you, they were everywhere.
Do you know the business that we owned, the cafe? It was called Horn and Harder, and it was an automat back in the early 1900s. An automat, right? And I think that would be cool to bring back, like kind of the old with the new. Something I'm thinking about.
An automat diner. So
kind of like no employees. The employees are in the back, and then they're just like kind of like, here's your tapioca pudding, here's your rice pudding. It was a staple, man. It was like the Starbucks of the early 1900s. Sam, I want to ask you something. So we've been hearing a lot, like all these people, these newer youth have come in. Some of them bought in at the top, and now their inventory is 50, 60, 70% off. You're smiling. Are you the person that bought in at the top? If so, how are you dealing with that? Are you still holding, selling, buying? Or are you someone that has been a part of the hobby for a long time? Talk to me about that, because we've been hearing that, but I'm curious to get it right from you. Like, what have you seen?
Yeah, so I got in, I don't know, like May of 2020. So right when kind of I think things were really about to go for a roller coaster. And so I got in. Obviously, I wasn't the person who got in and like was dropping thousands of dollars. I was the person getting in and dropping like $10 and $50. So I was a little hesitant to spend like hardly any money. I remember it was like Chronicle Soccer hobby boxes. They came out for like $170. And I bought 2 of them, and I was so scared to like even buy 2 of them. I was like, this is so much money. Like at the time I wasn't working. So it was the summer before I started working. I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy spending this much money on cards. But obviously now I've spent way more. But yeah, I think since then I've bought some cards that have obviously gone down. But I think like I don't necessarily see them as complete losses. I feel like a lot of it was like a learning lesson. So some of them I've bought and they've gone down, and I've just continued to hold them, just like I feel like I'd rather just have it in my collection than sell it. And then some of them I bought, they went down, and then I ended up selling them for a loss, and just kind of took the loss as like the price I paid for, I guess, knowledge at that point. So,
but that's a lot of Muhammad Ali's in this hobby, man. The famous quote from him, Andrew, of I don't lose, I either win or I learn.
Yeah,
we got a lot of people with that. We got a lot of people with that mentality here. Sam, I mean, good for you. I mean, it's something that I think otherwise would take people a while to have that mindset. When I was your age, if I bought a card, I'd be the idiot that dug my heels in and was like, I paid $10,000 for this card. You can't have it for 5. I don't care that the comp's a 4 and you're overpaying. I paid 10. I'm in it for 10. So I can't sell it cheap because of what I'm in it for. And we still hear people do that. We still hear dealers say stuff like that. That would be me 100%, Andrew. But now I do. I mean, I've talked about selling at a loss. I sold Michael Jordan cards that I bought last year at the peak. This year for significantly less.
I think our younger generation is tougher than we give them credit for, Cage. Maybe that's what it is. You know, we say people are going to leave the hobby. They're tough. They're smart. You know, one strike and they're out. No way. No way.
Well, I mean, you call them tough. I call them
resilient is probably a better word.
I mean, you go hang out in Starbucks and watch what they do when their orders are made wrong and there's 2 shots instead of 3. I don't know, resilience the word I'd go for, you know.
Yeah, when you order oat milk and you get normal milk, you get a little bit pissed off.
I mean, they go a little crazy. They don't take that as a learning lesson to not go to Starbucks anymore. They
Sam,
take it as, I'm gonna teach that barista a lesson. Is what really happened.
How was the Car Talk eBay event? So
yeah, that was really fun. So yeah, that was Friday night, and it was really cool. Yeah, just to kind of have that panel with a bunch of other women who are awesome in the hobby. Yeah, I thought it was just a good event to kind of network with other people too. There were a lot of people. You kind of walk into the outdoor area and you're like, wow, I know like half the people here, or at least like know who they are on Instagram and things like that. So I think all those events are really cool, and I think it was great of them to kind of dedicate that time to talk about things that are growing within the hobby, such as women kind of presence being one of them.
So just to piggyback on that, right? I mean, part of what we do here for National Treasures, we talked about you were at the last National, and, you know, lighting is different, you know, and, you know, more corporate. But one of the bigger differences is that women in the hobby and women of the hobby had a presence there, a physical presence, a presence at events, you name it. And if you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes, one, you know, what is the goal of women of the hobby, in the hobby? You know, what are we looking to do? You know, what can folks in the hobby do to help further that goal? And then, you know, with the conclusion here, the second part of my question, I do this all the time, is let's look forward to next year's National in Chicago. What would you hope to see for then? What kind of progression? Atlantic City, forget about the lights and the corporate stuff for a minute, but vis-a-vis women of the hobby.
All of the lights.
You know, what would you like to see? More space, more events, you name it, for women of the hobby, you know, if you had your way.
Ronaldinho.
So I think the first question, like the overall goal is really just to think of everyone, no matter, I guess, gender, like as a collector. And that's why I really like their tagline of "This is what a collector looks like." And so I think it's just kind of eliminating that stigma of when a man and a woman come to your booth, that the man is the one collecting and the woman's just kind of there on the side. I think it's just going in with the mindset that, oh, they both could be potential customers or potential people that I make deals with and eventually, you know, have relationships or friendships with. So I think
anybody who's poo-pooing that, by the way, take a second and listen to what's being said there, right? Yeah. And I'm guilty of it myself. I'll be the first one to admit. We had, you know, Mama Breaks on, who, you know, we had on pretty early. You know, I'm a huge fan of what she does. Love the Star Wars breaks, love the fun breaks. And, you know, I'll paraphrase, but I think if I can harken back to that episode, we were talking about her family, and I asked, you know, when's there going to be Papa breaks for, you know, when's that going to happen? And that is, her answer should have been to me, never. He's going to hang out and watch the kids while I break, you know, and you know, that's
he's going to package my cards. Actually, it's the packaging.
Yeah, I mean, but so that's a mistake that I made in one of our episodes, and I think, you know, kind of the vision that you have for that is, you know, this is what a collector looks like. You know, a woman can walk up to your table and make the same deal a man can. So I mean,
yeah, exactly. And you know, honestly, like calling out myself, I realized like I'm guilty of it, but almost in terms of age. Like I had like younger collectors coming up to me at trade night. And not that I was doubting that they had this much money. I have no idea why I even did that. But I was like, oh, it's like probably like, I don't know, like $400 or $500. He's like, okay, like cool. And I thought that would be like a lot for this person. And then they go to the next table and he's like, oh, that's $1,000. Like, would you do 900 on it? I'm like, what in the world? Like, this is crazy. So I'm like guilty of kind of making those assumptions of my own of other people. So I definitely get it's just like a mindset shift of just thinking that everyone can collect and not really making assumptions on what they collect either. So
Andrew reads a lot of books I don't read. He told me this thing yesterday that just blew my mind. I had never heard it before. He told me it was original. Like he didn't read it somewhere. He made it up himself. So I'll repeat it just for Luke and Nation because I mean, he should be a philosopher. What he said to me yesterday was
a study of life.
Don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, he told me he made this up. And I mean, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Absolute genious. But it's true though. Yeah. Right? I mean, that kid, he's walking around going, "Oh, gee, all right, no problem." And you're like, "What the hell is this?" You know, I'm expecting this kid to be, you know, in the dollar box. So I mean, it works across all all different books. Don't judge it by the cover. Genius, Andrew. Genius.
Were you starstruck when
You met
saw
Lou Janou?
Lou Janou was on the stage with you and he met. We get each other.
I would faint if I ever was that close to Lou.
Lou. Yeah, I've met Lou a couple times before. I don't know if Star Trek. I mean, I'm happy to see him as like a friend. I actually gave him just like an Elijah Moore card. I feel like everyone knows him now as like the Elijah Moore collector. So I gave him a small card there. But yeah, I mean, just happy to see him. I don't know if starstruck is the word, but it's always good to see Lou. He has such a like positive energy all the time, and it's really good.
Give us a few takeaways from. Oh, sorry, go ahead. But
no,
I want to hear takeaways from the eBay kind of panel.
Yeah. One thing though, I think back on Paige's question on, I think it was called out a couple of places, but I think one thing that was interesting too of what could be different next year at the National was the lack of female autograph signers. So they had no female autograph signers, and I think they had 150 male signers. So it's just interesting that, like, I don't know, like if you're wanting to increase the presence of women and like grow the hobby, like not having any female signers. I know some other corporate booths like Tops had some of their Tops or Athletes Unlimited athletes come and sign. I know that the women in the hobby booth had some other signers too. So I know other people like non-related to the National, like other corporate sponsors had signers, but yeah, none officially sponsored by the National, which was just I think something that could change moving forward.
The challenge I think with WNBA is I think it's their season right now, right? So that's what makes it tough. But I think it's a huge miss with like U.S. Women's national team.
Retired, athletes. I mean, by the way, if Amanda Beard was there, I know a lot of Luca Nation folks would be happy because we get cards submitted from our crew all the time. I've seen dozens of Amanda Beard cards come through our SGC.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah, and they get good grades too. I'm not like Sport Kings kind of cards and stuff like that. So, I mean, it doesn't just have to be a current player. I think what Sam is saying, right? I mean, it could be a ton of different, avenues. Ex-U.S. national soccer team players. Bring in Brandy Chastain, right? Bring in Mia Hamm would be a huge get. Yeah, but come on, I just threw a name out there.
I mean, yeah, no, they got like Floyd Mayweather, like they had OBJ, like they had all like who knows what the budget was for that, but like they can't get like a.
Give me your top three. Give me who you'd want to see, Sam.
I mean, so I went to South Carolina, so I'm a Gamecocks fan. So I would prefer like Asia Wilson from WNBA. Probably maybe another sport. I don't know. I'm more so into basketball, to be honest. So a lot of like the Gamecocks players is who I would want. But I think overall, like getting someone like a Mia Hamm or like I mean, these are obviously really big names like a Sue Bird or Diana Taurasi. Like some of those names would be really good to get, but if you think about it, they kind of align to the caliber that they had on the male side too. So it's like I don't really see what the issue.
Listen, I got one list, not three, for next year for Chicago. BG, because that means she's back home. We all BG Goldberg. She's number one on the list. Let's get those autographs. Let's bring her home.
As someone who's flown with vapes. I don't know
why. Thank you. I set this up because I knew where he would go with it.
I'm torn, man. I'm torn. Russia's a crazy place.
Yeah.
It's a crazy place.
So you know Russia and you know vapes. So uniquely situated.
I'm between a rock and a hard place on those because I do understand the benefit of flying with vapes, but I don't recommend anyone mess with Putin. He's a crazy guy. But Sam, we're having fun. You got vapes in my head.
Now you know you need to take a break and go.
End episode. Let's go, vape.
No, I think that's a great point, by the way. It's not even something that I would have thought about, and that's part of the problem, I think. To have female signers as well, and I wouldn't even have thought there were none. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, like maybe like they would get like honestly like 5 like that. Like that's still such a like uneven percentage, but it's at least some. You can't say 0. So yeah, it's an interesting like thing. And I wasn't the first person to notice that. Like there were other people who called that out like to my attention. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy.
I want to tip my hat. So we give flowers. I'm going to ask you who you think's doing things really well. but there was an account that was getting a ton of criticism early in 2020, always publishing negative. And I think that person or people took it to heart, and though they still do call outs, they've used our platform for good, at least partially, and that's card porn.
Mhm.
And I think we could call a spade a spade. What's the relationship between women of the hobby and card porn, if there is one? You guys were doing like
Yeah.
a giveaway, I think, and I'm just asking. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I really don't know card porn that well. Like we have like I guess a couple back and forth. So I it seems like they know me, but I don't know them type of thing. So
All seeing, all knowing.
yeah, the anonymous type
1984.
of person there. But yeah, I mean, I've like messaged a couple times back and forth, but I think what you're referring to is yeah, they did a Fleer box break at the national, and that was more so with women in the hobby. I feel like there's going to be a big like you got to kind of like discern the two a little bit here, but yeah, that was with I believe Kinsey from Leighton Sports Cards. She helped break that with Candyman is like the name of the breaker. So yeah, that's kind of the what that relationship was at the national. But I think they've been pretty helpful, and I know they kind of played a hand in getting a lot of giveaways for like tickets for other women to come to the national. So they played a role in helping us get those tickets. But yeah, that's the relationship thus far.
I'll help clear this up for everybody. Card porn is Shayway Vlogs. And if anybody wants to disagree with me on that, perfectly fine. I have the evidence to back it up.
I've heard, I believe it. Who would you give flowers to? Who do you think's doing things well? Who do you want to, give praise or, I like what they're doing, group, business, corporate, whoever?
Yeah. I think one person who I really think is trying to do a lot to bring in like the younger collectors and not just women younger or like female younger collectors is Kayla. Like she just recently changed her name, so she was Card Collector 8117. Now she's Kayla Collects on Instagram. So I think she has more of a mindset of trying to bring in the younger collector, which is where I think it also should be centered around, just because I think there's like so much study of like a kid who's involved in something at a young age. They kind of are like a lifelong fan type of thing. So I think that's kind of the right direction to go, and I think she's doing a lot to try and increase that presence overall.
Austin Meadows, is that who she collects, Cage?
Austin
Hayes.
Austin Hayes. We had Kayla on.
I hope she got it. Yeah, I hope she got it. I sent her an Austin Hayes auto, like a clearly authentic one.
Oh, nice.
I hope it got there.
By the way, we're all thinking about what's the best next investment. I'm thinking just UPS. Like the amount of packages that we're sending each other. Like card prices go up and down, but one thing that just goes up? It's postage.
It does.
So, by the way, not financial advice. Don't kill me. Sim, most people don't know this. You work for IBM, right? So, like, this is a part-time.
Now they all know.
Yeah, now
they all know. Do you hope to eventually transition this into like a full-time like media network? What's your vision? Like, what would you want to see happen?
I think I'd like to probably keep Women of the Hobby as just kind of like a smaller, like on the side type of fun thing, almost as like an outlet type of thing to do. But I think like there's definitely potential like in the future, like to make some type of career move into cards. I think that would be a lasting goal, like down the line would be to be involved with cards in some manner, whether that be through card companies or just different things like that. So definitely have my eyes on it, but I think for right now, just kind of staying with the stability here of IBM.
What is IBM Watson?
It's like their health platform. I don't work in Watson, so I actually work on like the procurement analytics team. So I do a lot of like client spend data, looking through that. So that's
You've seen the commercials, Cage, and I'm like, who is this Watson guy?
Yeah, it's sort of like their customer service, like help desk version of Alexa, kind of. You know what I mean? It's like their AI help desk. You know what I mean? It's their computer learning.
Hey, right? Watson, make me tater tots and eggs today. Like, and he could do it? No.
I mean, if you have a smart home set up through Watson, possibly where your oven and your refrigerator and all that stuff are set up, I still don't think they have it set up where you could get the eggs out of the fridge and start cooking them. You might need like an actual like robot or another human to help facilitate. They could probably turn your stove on.
Did you ever see the Disney movie Smart House?
Yes.
Did you ever see the Disney? You've seen that, Sam?
No.
Where the Smart House she goes crazy.
She likes turning like kind of evil and like locks doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love
feel
that.
like I'm in the movie Stupid House pretty much every day, but I gotta go watch the Smart House now.
You're literally going to Disney World. They should
am.
have a smart house. Cage is going to Disney World.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, love it there. Love it there. Drink around the world in Epcot. I love Epcot because of Epcot, I don't ever have to leave America.
Right.
Because if there's ever a country outside of America that's worth going to, they'll just put it in Epcot.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't been since I've been 21, so different experiences, I think.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the way to go.
Cage feels that Luca Nation won the championship. You know, after you win the Super Bowl, they're like, "What are you doing next?" I'm going to
Disney World.
That's what Cage is doing.
I'm going. I mean, we're doing a National Treasure series. We're going to Disney World. Sam, I gotta ask this because I'm slightly confused, and maybe more so than before we started. And I know people, if I'm confused, if
women
people
of the hobby versus
Pan. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. You're better at this.
No, you go.
So I mean, are the same people in both? Women in the hobby, women of the hobby. Will there soon be a women for the hobby? It's going to, which is fine also. But I mean, if people want to reach out and find you guys,
Shy is only in women of the hobby, but not women.
No. Card Point did the break with women in the hobby. I think is what Sam just said. I was trying to pay attention. It's not the easiest thing. I listen. I think there should be 50 of them. I mean, because the more attention that gets brought to it, the better. I mean, I have a daughter. I'm trying to get her into collecting. She has not found something. But I think the Stranger Things is going to be the start. But seriously, she loves that stuff. But yeah, I mean, just because people are curious. Not that it really matters, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I think too, like it's kind of a newer name change for women in the hobby. So I think it'll just take a little bit of time to like figure out maybe what the main differences are. But I also think about it in the manner of like this is just bound to happen as like more accounts get made. Like you think of how many sports card like accounts there are that are so similar in their names. Like it's going to be pretty similar here. So I think it's just like a coincidence that they're like very similar.
It's a great point, Sam. At some point, I want to meet Card Collector 1.
Right? Like there's
really he screwed Ryan over really bad.
Exactly. So it's just like one of those things where I think we're still trying to figure it out. But like in my mind, I would say like Women of the Hobby is more maybe like a content podcast page, and then Women in the Hobby is maybe surrounding more around like a community, and like they more have a Facebook group attached to it. So that's kind of how I like differentiate in my.
Okay. All right. So the Women of the Hobby is sort of highlight, the women themselves, do some media about them, tell you who they are, who the women are, inside out and outside of the hobby. Women in the Hobby is basically like what the initiatives we're doing for women in the hobby itself. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great explanation.
Yeah. And I think Sam, too, so.
What's your Grail card? Like, what were you chasing at National that you might have picked up, or you didn't get a chance to pick it up?
So I mean, like, there are Grail cards that, like, I could never afford, and there are Grail cards that are, like, within budget of things I could potentially afford.
Let's do both, and never say never, right? You know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, like, I'm actually a really big LeBron James fan, so I think any, like, high-end LeBron, like, the Exquisite is, like, the one that everyone always goes to. So, I mean, that would be, like the inevitable Grail card, I think, for me. But in terms of ones that I can actually afford, I'm more of a Carolina Panthers fan, which helps in the being able to afford things because their cards aren't too expensive. So I'm actually a big Luke Kuechly fan. So he was a linebacker. And so I think his Prism Gold, so he came out and he's a rookie in 2012, also like first year of Prism. So.
He's awesome, by the way, but he always gets concussions. He plays
exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So Ian, last year, the first one-of-one Ian ever pulled out of a pack was a Luke Kuechly one-of-one out of Elite. Where it's some crazy one. And we graded it with SGC, got a 10. So he's keeping that one. He's keeping Luke Kuechly. So he knows who that is because that was his one-of-one he pulled out of a pack. So
is Christian McCaffrey going to stay healthy this year?
No, and like at all.
Spoken like a true Panther fan.
Does Sam Darnold see ghosts?
Probably. I have a feeling like I just got the notification that for the preseason game tonight, Baker and Sam, neither of them are playing. But I have a feeling they'll start Sam, he'll get hurt, or he'll just be like terrible, and then they'll throw in Baker on down the line. That's kind of what I think will
I'd be shocked if Baker doesn't start the season as QB1.
You
Shocked.
think? I heard like in training camp that Sam was like doing really well apparently, but I don't know. So we'll see.
I mean, they need to sign Josh Rosen. Rosen, is that his name? And then they have the whole draft class.
Good. Yeah, I mean we have all the busts are on our team. It's fine. Like we have Matt Corral from last year from Ole Miss.
Yep.
PJ Walker, I think, was from the XFL.
XFL, yep.
And
Totally different quarterback than everybody else. That's more of a running.
I like PJ Walker.
Yeah.
Sam, where should people follow you? Where should people find you?
At Women of the Hobby. And then I also have YouTube, so Women of the Hobby on YouTube. And those are the main spots. I have my like personal card page as well. It's at samstuff_25. So yeah, that's where I'm at on social.
Do you have a dream guest or that you'd want to get onto your show on YouTube?
Besides Andrew.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, so I think just beyond like other collectors, one thing I'm like trying to expand upon are like just other like sports people, and so I think eventually I'd like to like have other athletes and things on. So getting like another athlete on the show. I had someone from Athletes Unlimited, but yeah, really just another athlete. I think that's kind of something I've noticed too, is like a lot of male athletes, like we've seen my child at PSA, are like very familiar with cards. And like,
I didn't get that.
And
Could you try again?
And their own cards. That was my
She doesn't work for Watson.
Yeah, she doesn't
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure I understand.
He keeps oh no. He doesn't get me.
Sam,
That's it.
if you
Look
could
what you
pick,
did, Andrew.
you could only
Now my house
pick
is
one
trying
of
to
the
make
two.
ends for her.
This is the last question. We'll let you go, Sam, because I got to bounce too. Luke Kuechly, Asia Wilson, autographing next year. You can only pick one. Ask Siri. What would Siri do?
Yeah, for real. I'll go with Luke Kuechly just because it's like in my forever PC. It has.
I love it. Any final questions, Cage?
No, man, that was great. And that was a good question to end it on.
Thank you. Sam, you're the best. Luca Nation, please go support Sam's stuff, Women of the Hobby. Love you guys.
Awesome.
We'll be back tomorrow.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.